Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, it's the right side. I have two of the trees that I was considering for this right side, plus I have this dead tree that we're going to put inside the waterway. Have the fish swimming around in there like this tree died. I might be able to hang it from right off the edge right here, right there, once the rocks are in place. So that's just in there, just kind of soaking. The bubbler is right below the waterfall to show some action. The water, of course, will be raised when we get it to the tank part and we add the fish. We have no leaks and it's been over 5 days, so that is still a good sign. Awesome, awesome. So I think I'm gonna go with this one right here because I want it to lean over the edge of this tank really like something like that. So that's probably gonna be the winner. I think this one doesn't lean as much. This one has a little bit more growth. So I think I'm gonna go ahead with that one as the tree in the background. So we're gonna get that one in there. So then we have this one in the front that just hangs over a little bit. This one will hang over a little bit more. So we'll get that one back there. Before I put that one in though, I wanna consider what's gonna be next. And we had talked about having my clump style tree in here somewhere. So could I have these 5 trees that are growing in a clump right there in the middle, just to add a lot of trees to the forest. And then I also talked about having my variegated Benjamina in here somewhere. And so that could be in here somewhere to get a little bit of variegated leaves, nice leaf structure against the Premna. So I like that, but I don't know if all 3 of these will fit in there when I put one in the front here as well. And I don't know which one's going to go in the front. We had considered the one that I had growing super tall and make this like a new tree that's just going to grow nice and big in the front here someday, but it's not there yet, right? So this could be the someday tree sitting right up here in the front. But it's not the biggest tree. This actually is the tallest tree at the moment, although the thickness of the trunk isn't any more than this one. So there's not a lot of height over here, but of course down the road it will be. So this is just a planting for now. The only other option I would have with this forest on the right hand side was to go ahead and put a big Premna that I have sitting up here that has not been trimmed down yet. So what if we put something big like this here? Look at this big old tree right there, huh? We got the great big tree that splits into 2 here, chewed up by the critters. I think if we put it this way, then we got a nice big tree here. And it fills up this space. We got a little bit skinnier pot to put it in, but if I could get that one in there, right along the edge there, it's a nice big tree for the front tree, and then the back trees can do their thing maybe over time on their own, right? That would be 3 major trees. Don't know if I just want 3, if I can put 4 or 5. And again, this clump style could go right in the middle there, and we'd have a whole bunch of trees and just let that part of the forest grow. This would be like the edge of the forest. I have some rocks in here. These will all come out for now, so we can just place our trees, add some soil as we need to. So let me take a peek at this here. I do kind of like this tree because of this really big wide split down here. So having it up here as a big old tree that's been around for a while, and we can just let it keep growing up. We can let some growth come up on these 2 branches. And it was chopped by the critters, so it might not survive. And it's not as pretty, so it's not something we can salvage for a long time, because I think all this critter chew is going to be there. Slowly might recover. But it's alive, so it's a good experimental tree, I think, for this right here. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one out of the soil and see if we can put this one here first as our first main anchor tree, and then we'll look at our other options after that. As always, with a new tree, new from a nursery, not taken out of the pot yet, you don't know what's going to be down below. So part of the exciting part about taking a nursery stock and making it your own is really getting that repot so you can see what's going on down below with the roots. You can see what work you have to do right off the bat with the roots. You see how much of a flare you might have down low. You see the health of your root structure and how it grows. And these Premnas have shown that they can be air layered pretty successfully. I had 100% success with my air layers. And my rootings, when I do cuttings and put them in and try to get some roots out of my cuttings, I've had over 90% success. What I have discovered is that when you root them and get some roots, when I've tried to repot some of those into a couple of different locations after the rootings took hold, some of them didn't then last. They had a lot of roots, enough roots to probably take hold in a new pot, but then they kind of like wilted away. And they wilted away like they were dry because they were wilty, but they almost looked like they had plenty of moisture, but they were just kind of droopy. And droopy leaves usually means that you're not having enough water. So as you can see, it fits in there okay the way it is now if we scrunch some roots in there, and there's some depth to it a little bit, but we're of course going to trim off some of these roots and make it work a little bit better. So let's get some of those cut up. This root might be a little bit high on the tree that we don't want anymore. We'll get rid of that one. We have a bit of a cluster down here of roots that are growing together. Real kind of gnarly and thick and chunky. We might actually be able to cut that out. So there's a section of root down here, almost like this is like a taproot. We're going to cut that off. And then there's some roots that wrap around here. And that went into the pond. There we go. So I've noticed the Premnas have a lot of big thicker roots, but not a ton of fine feeder roots. So I don't want to cut too much roots off, but I want to make sure it fits into this bonsai pot tank, and then some new feeder roots can form. But there's all kinds of thick roots in here. And again, we want finer roots to grow off of the medium roots. Here's another one that's growing straight up right here. It's coming from down below somewhere. I don't want that in there. This one's growing all over around in a weird shape. And now we've got this big root over here. Cut this. There's a big root underneath here. I'm not sure where. Oh, right here. Look at that. So I'm not sure where that curves around and where the actual base of this tree is. But that's going to be a lot of wasted space in this bonsai pot tank. So I'm going to cut it right here. See what we got going. Kind of a Hail Mary cut there. And then see where it comes back over here. Seems to be attached to the tree on this side. So it's almost like the old taproot, or it's almost like a couple of taproots. Two roots kind of fused together as one. So here's this kind of big taproot kind of thing from what was just cut off. There, it's getting thicker now there. So we still have a fair amount of roots on there. We didn't cut them all off. We can tuck these into the soil and let some new roots grow. Here's one that's just kind of up high and in the way. I don't know what's going to happen down here at the bottom here yet. Yeah, it's still a little tangled. There. Yeah, so we've got this gnarly piece of chunk of a root here. Just not sure what that's going to do for us down the road. The more I cut off now, the easier it'll be to work with later. So there it is right there. And it comes from in the center here. There we go. There's that knot. Now things are more straight up and down. We'll have to do some more ramifying later on. So here's our tree now. Filling this spot a little bit more with some more room to move. So we're gonna go ahead and move some of this soil over. We got a couple episodes ago I put the big, more coarser soil at the bottom. So I think this will sit real nice right in here. Okay, so let's see. I kind of like it just like that. So we'll get some soil in there and start creating this final resting spot. Spilling a little bit of soil into the pond. I will clean that out later. Remember, the fish is what we're going to do last. So we're going to make a big mess and we're going to get dirt to spill all over the place. We've got rocks to put in here yet. I'm going to go ahead and tamp down some of the soil into the cracks of the roots of this tree. And now we're going to lift it up a little bit so we can have a little bit higher planting. And there we go. Be nicer to make this big mess outside than in my plant room, but all is okay. We will be able to put some sphagnum moss on top of this soil to keep the moisture in. We can put some muck over here if we want to hold this soil in place a little bit more. But that's looking pretty good. And I honestly don't care where the rocks fall because I want it to be natural. So wherever the chips may fall, right? Wherever they land. Let these rocks fall to the floor. We'll sweep them up and recycle what we can recycle. And now we got a little bit of hold here, a little bit of water that's going to seep through to the glass table. But we'll stop right about there for now just to get a little water in there. And there we go. So we've got the tree up front. So we got this tall, slender one here with the forest back there and the waterfall. But here we got a thicker, bushier tree. But we will prune some of these leaves back, right? Like there's one right there that happens to have been bumped from me planting it, right? Moving this around. So we're just going to go ahead and go like this and cut that off anyway. We'll go ahead and cut this big, long one up front here. Cut this one. This one's growing back towards the tree. This one's growing way inside. I'll just cut that off for right now. Got some big leaves up here. And we'll just leave it like that for now until the rest of the planting comes to fruition. Now that this tree is in, I have my next tree that I wanted to have at that angle. And as I took it out of the pot, I realized, look at all those nice fine feeder roots. So this one did a really good job down here in the plant room, growing all those feeder roots. So I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to cut some of these off and we're going to grow even more. Now, as I put it out of the pot, I realized, oh, this was a double trunk. So we can leave that as a feature. We can cut it off later, but this tree will fit right there, leaning right over the pond a little bit. Got a branch growing right over here, which is kind of nice. So I don't think we have to dig this down anymore. We'll just put it right there and build some soil up right on top of it. I will cut this part on this side just a little bit. Normally we like a nice radial root pattern. So we're often looking for that radial root pattern, but if I want this to be close to this edge, I'm going to want all the roots to go back this way. This is leaning over this edge right here. So very nice. And the roots will all go back here and will be held in. So let me go see this from the front. And we get the underside of that tree. And that's okay. So let's go ahead and let's actually move the rocks from over here into position. because we're going to have to dig those rocks out for the next planting. So again, we'll lift this up a little bit. We want this to be a little higher. I want the roots to go down a little bit. As I look at some of my rocks from the rocks that I ordered, I got plenty of wide, flat rocks that can go here, and we can form a kind of a back to this side over here based on the way this tree is going in right there. And then we can have a rock that's maybe like this right here. And this forms kind of that edge around that pond. Rocks going down. It's a little bit leaning here. So if I can find that real skinny rock, or that rock that lets me raise this right here, those just can sit there. We don't have to have those rocks glued in by any stretch. One looks like it's kind of floating in midair back there because it's on the glass part of the fish tank. So maybe we don't want one jetting out quite that far. So let's see what other rocks we have here as a possible replacement for that one. So we take this long one out, and maybe we take this really flat one here and put it right there, just like that. And now we have a jagged edge back over here. It's kind of stacked up right here. We don't know if it's sitting on a rock or on the water, and there's our little tree right there. Let's give that a little bit of water. And this is one of those trees that's in there really loosely, so it's going to have a weight on the back too. So we might put a big old rock on the back just to hold it in place. And all the roots are on the back here, so when we water this, you know, we can water it right here, not worry about these rocks too much. Yeah, that's kind of fun. And we have it bushy right here, so it's a little bit harder to see unless you're over on the left side of the planting. But I like the slant of that tree. We've got some nice growth on that tree. We can go ahead and we can trim this guy right here. We can trim this guy right here. Trim this guy right there. And this guy in the back, and we'll just leave everything else there. We're just going to let this all of a sudden start to grow. The wound back here is not viewable from up there. The other trunk is down here hiding. We'll put a little sphagnum moss on here, but we might need a little rock with some weight back here. So in the beginning, I might be able to put this rock back here just to hold this tree in place for a while. And then when we water it, we can lift it up, water it, and put that rock back in place. So we're left with a decision. I got a big old thick tree in the front, this skinnier but tall tree in the front, all these small trees in the back. This one's a medium-sized one, but we only have a little bit of space left. Do we have enough room just to put this little variegated Benjamina, and will you even see it? Or do we go ahead with the original thought of putting in the multi-trunk tree? The multi-trunk tree will fit in there. When I take this out of there, based on the roots in this tree up front, I should be able to put this right here, and we have a multi-tree trunk growing here, and we can just let these grow up real tall, and they might stick up in the forest really kind of cool. So I kind of want to do that, and I kind of want to save the Benjamina, because I think the Benjamina out here is going to be hidden. I don't think we're going to see that Benjamina very much. So right now, from behind the tree, I don't see it too much. We could trim this one down a little bit, let this one grow tall, and then you'll see it though. Maybe we put it so it's more out there on the edge. And from down low it looks okay. You can see the trunk, but you really can't see that tree that much. So you can't see this tree very much, but in the future, what if I have this big old forest of 5 back here? And that grows up to be a tall tree. I kind of like that. And my experience with the Benjamina is that it can be very finicky and take a long time to grow, and these have been growing so fast. I think we're going to try to take this one out of its pot and put it in here, and then we'll have 3 big old thick Premnas. A big thick one, a medium one, and then this 5 trunk one. Let's do that. So we can set this planting in motion now. So I'm going to come around to this side and see, if you're looking through the forest, how will this look best? Kind of like that. It's got the 4 trees in the back and the one in the front here, which looks like the strongest. We can put these roots anywhere we want right here. Okay, so let's dig a little more out and get this really nice and low. And then we'll bury it with some soil. Okay, so we'll tamp down this soil. We're getting our pond just super dirty with bonsai soil, but we'll clean all that out. We're getting some good bacteria in that pond. Let's water this down a little bit. I love right here, you can see this root going right down there. That's really cool. We'll cover that up with some sphagnum moss to protect it for now, but then that could be a really cool exposed root in the future. So here's the planting after the right side. We got the trees in, we got this big thick one up front. We're gonna trim it up a little bit. We've got the 5 trees in the back, and we've got this lean one over here looking nice, and we'll let it grow out more over here. So the update from the left side, everything's looking okay. We've lost some leaves. We're losing leaves a little bit every day. So I hope that doesn't mean that the trees are gonna go bye-bye, but we have some more trees we can put in its place. So, and then this one back here is a little wilty, so I don't think this one's gonna make it. So 4 of the trees are fine, but this one's a little wilty. We might have to replace that with another cutting. We'll give it a little bit more time to see if it's gonna recover. I'm gonna cut this one off right here because it's just not doing anything. Got a big old leaf there, big old leaf there, and a droopy leaf there. So we'll just leave that there. See what happens. This one looks nice and green and plush. This is this new growth on this 5 trunk tree, and this is the great big one here. So we got a lot of big leaves right in here, making this super tall and thick right here. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of that section. Cut back right there, I'm gonna cut back right there. This has a lot of new growth in here, so we're gonna cut this right here. Got some tangles in here. So let's cut this off here. This is going too much at us. All right. So this is growing at us. We'll cut this off and let the back stuff grow in here. There we go. So we shorten this tree up just a little bit. Get rid of this branch right here. Trim this one going down. And this one has got a nice extra branch we can cut off right there. So we made this a little bit more short and manageable. We're gonna leave it there though, and we'll make some more decisions. We'll just see if this, survives this transplant. We just want this to do wonderful things as a transplant. I'm gonna cut this one off right here though, so we can see inside that tree. So I got a couple of new leaves there. We'll see if we keep that. That might go someday. There we go. So we've got this fun little tree. You can imagine a rope swing down here with a little tire right there. Got this tree growing up this way. We'll have 2 different sections of this tree. We just got to see if it's going to survive though first in this new transplant, in the fun fish tank bonsai pot extravaganza. We have a couple more rocks here. We can continue to build some of this up. Just to give it some 3-dimension, right, like that. Maybe this one goes down here, then this one on top of that. So it's right there. There we go. So we got some rocks all the way down on both sides. You don't see the black tarp as much. The water will be much higher. I'm going to put some sphagnum moss all around the base of these trees. We want the moisture to stay into these trees. I want to hide some of the bonsai soil. Hopefully get some greenery down the road. And so this is the leftover sphagnum moss from the left side of the planting. And we'll just go ahead and place some of this right here. We'll get our chopstick and we'll put it into place. So I grated the sphagnum moss. I got the sphagnum moss nice and wet, and we're able to kind of put this in place, and it'll stay in place pretty well. If I need it to stay in place in some areas that have some edges on there, I can always put some muck on there, and we can do that. So we're just going to tuck this sphagnum moss into these little spots right here. We can pull out some of the longer straggly pieces. We can tuck it in between some of the roots if there's some exposed roots here. We can tuck it underneath this rock right here. I can lift this rock up here and make it a little bit more sturdy here with some sphagnum moss. As I pull back, it's a nice chance to see the pond fish tank come to fruition. We're getting so close. So we have our 5 trees in the middle. We have our big leaning tree back there, and this one we trimmed up with the big old Y on here. A leaning tree on the left, some small trees on the left as well. We'll make sure all those stay alive, and if they don't, we have some other cuttings to plant in there. We've got the waterfall that's doing its thing right now. We got a dead tree in here that the fish can swim around. Got a lot of bonsai soil in the pond right now, but we'll clean all that up. We might leave some of the pebbles in there. It looks pretty natural, quite honestly. But of course, we get some the pumice will float, so a lot of that floats to the surface. So we'll clean up the fish pond. We're gonna have to move this onto the tank stand though pretty soon, which we're also fixing. So before we wrap up, the stand, I put some trim work on there, and just today before I started working on the trees, I was able to put a coat of super glaze on the top only of the fish tank stand. I want that glaze to be super thick, and so the water won't penetrate the wood, because when I water this, I'm going to spill water every time I water over the edges a little bit. Some might drip around, so we're going to make it super thick with that super glaze. So while that dries, we let this see if they survive, and then eventually when that's all dry, we're going to bring the stand in here, put this on there, and then add the rest of the water and see how things pan out. The video doesn't show it, but I've made an incredible mess down here, so it is time to clean up. So we're gonna wrap up for today. We've got the left side with the sphagnum moss that I didn't show you last time, but it is in place. The trees are all doing okay except for this one. We might have to replace it. We got 3 trees in here. Actually, we got 5, 6, 7 trees, because this is a cluster of 5. We'll see if that grows up tall and becomes the centerpiece over here, tall, with this wide tree down here and low. And then this leaning tree over here can go over the pond. We've got the Ted tree in here. The water is running. We are an episode or 2 away from adding fish, dare I say. That would be pretty exciting. But let's let it sit and do its thing and see how these trees do in their new pot. We'll monitor them very closely. Hey, thanks for watching. Click like or subscribe if you haven't done that already. And in the meantime, hey, take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and we're gonna catch you very, very soon.